There is a kind of focus that does not look intense, and does not look forced, and does not rely on discipline that feels heavy or harsh. It is a focus that feels steady, almost unnervingly calm, because it is built on something very few people ever master. Zen monks in Japan called this ability Ichigyo-Zammai, the art of becoming fully absorbed in a single line of action. They understood something long before science could measure it, something long before the world grew loud, and before distraction became the default human state. And today, in a time where your attention is pulled in 1,000 directions, this ancient technique becomes a quiet weapon against the chaos of modern life. If you stay until the end of this video, you will learn how Ichigyo-Zammai can help you clear mental noise, enter a state of flow on command, and strengthen the part of you that has been waiting to lead your life with intention instead of reactivity. You will understand how monks trained their minds to stay rooted in one action, how modern neuroscience confirms the power of this practice, and how you can apply this technique to your work, your creativity, your relationships, and the way you move through every moment of your day. Let's begin. We start with a story whispered across Zen temples, a story that mirrors the way many of us feel inside. A young monk once confessed to his teacher that he could not concentrate. "My mind runs everywhere," he said. "It pulls me in every direction. I cannot hold a single thought still." The master listened quietly, then handed him a simple broom. "Sweep the garden," he said, "but only sweep." The monk bowed, but as he began, his thoughts wandered in every direction. He worried about the chores that waited for him, the conversations he replayed in his mind, the doubts that circled him like restless birds. His body moved, but his mind drifted, and then, without noticing when it happened, something inside him softened. The sound of the broom brushing the stones grew steady. His breath matched the rhythm without effort. The world around him faded into a single moment of presence. He was no longer thinking about sweeping. He was simply sweeping. When he returned, the master nodded once and said the words that carried the whole weight of the practice. "This is Ichigyo-Zammai. One action, one mind, nothing else." This teaching matters now more than ever. Modern neuroscience shows that the brain is not designed for multitasking. Every time you shift your attention, your focus resets, your clarity drains, and your energy leaks. The cost is not small, it is cumulative. But when you enter a single line of action, the brain reorganizes itself. Stress reductions begin within seconds, neural efficiency increases, creativity rises, and the mind moves into what psychologists now call task-positive mode, the neurological gateway to flow. Asian monks did not describe this state scientifically. They described it spiritually. They described it as the mind settling back into itself. They believed that when you give one action your full presence, you give your spirit a chance to breathe. Before you learn the steps of the practice, one principle must be understood clearly. Ichigyo-Zammai is not about forcing the mind. It is not about fighting distractions. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about removing what is unnecessary, so the necessary can stand on its own. It is about returning to one motion, one breath, one intention. In this first part, you have stepped into the doorway of the practice. You have met its spirit, its purpose, and the way it softens the noise inside you. Next, we will go deeper. You will learn the neuroscience behind why this technique is so powerful, how monks train themselves to stay anchored in one action, and the modern methods you can use to eliminate distractions with quiet confidence. There is something else worth remembering before we continue, something the old teachers understood with a kind of quiet certainty. They believed that distraction is not a sign of weakness, but a sign that the mind is carrying too much. They believed that focus is not a talent, but a return to what matters, a return to what is true, a return to the part of you that has always known how to be present, even when the world pulls you away from yourself. Ichigyo-Zammai is not the creation of something new inside you. It is the uncovering of something ancient, something that has always lived beneath the noise. As we move to the next section, let yourself feel the simplicity of this. One action, one breath, one mind. Everything begins there. There is a moment in Zen training when a student realizes that focus is not something they learn, but something they return to. The monks would say, "What you seek is already inside you, but it is buried beneath too much noise." too much reaching toward the next thing, before the first thing is truly lived. Ichigyo-Zammai is the practice of removing this too much, not by force, but by narrowing the mind to one clear point, like a single lantern glowing in a dark room. To understand this practice deeply, we must explore how monks used it, how the brain responds to it, and how you can bring this ancient clarity into your modern life. In Zen monasteries, every action is a ritual. When a monk pours tea, they only pour tea. When they chant, they only chant. When they walk, they only walk. Their presence becomes a single thread. This is not for aesthetic beauty. It is training the mind to recognize the experience of full absorption. One of the oldest exercises is called samu, a form of mindful labor, sweeping paths, cleaning floors, chopping vegetables in silence. To an outsider, it looks ordinary, but inside, the monk is learning something rare, something most people never learn in their lifetime. They are learning to anchor the mind to one motion, without drifting into the storms of thought. They call it the strengthening of the unmoving mind, not a frozen mind, not a rigid mind, but a mind that stays centered even when the world shakes around it. For centuries, Zen teachers described this state through metaphor and practice. Only recently did neuroscience reveal why it works so profoundly. When you focus on one action without breaking your attention, your brain enters what researchers call task-positive mode, a state in which distractions quiet and neural efficiency increases. The prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making, creativity, and higher problem-solving, begins to operate with less strain. The amygdala, the part of the brain linked to stress and hypervigilance, reduces its activity, and dopamine pathways strengthen, which increases motivation, satisfaction, and your ability to stay engaged with your chosen task. In simple terms, the mind becomes quieter, and the work becomes easier. When this state repeats, the brain adapts. It begins to prefer single tasking over multitasking, clarity over chaos, depth over speed. This is why Ichigyo-Zammai doesn't just help you focus, it rewires your relationship with attention itself. The scattered mind. Your brain was never built for endless notifications, constant stimulation, or fractured attention. Every time you switch tasks, your mind must reorient. This process is called attention residue, and it costs you more energy than you realize. If you check your phone while working, a part of your focus stays stuck on the last thing you saw. It does not fully return for several minutes. If you jump between tasks all day, your mind never lands long enough to enter flow. Most people are not tired because they are doing too much. They are tired because they are switching too often. Ichigyo-Zammai ends this inner scattering. It quiets the noise long enough for depth to take root. There is a story from Japanese archery, known as Kyudo. A student once asked his master how to hit the target with perfect accuracy. The master replied, "You do not hit the target, you become the arrow." The student was confused. When you think about aiming, your mind splits. When you worry about results, your mind scatters. But when you give yourself completely to the draw, to the breath, to the release, the arrow finds its way. The student practiced for years, not aiming, not forcing, just entering the single line of action. And one day, his arrows began to land effortlessly. Not because he learned to aim better, but because he learned to disappear into one motion. To bring this into your daily world, you begin with one simple shift. Choose a single action, commit to it fully, remove everything else for a short window of time. A few practices to begin. 1. Set a small container, 10 minutes, no interruptions, only one line of action. 2. Remove visual noise, close tabs, clear the desk, silence the phone. 3. Match breath to movement. This tells the nervous system, we are here, we are doing only this. 4. Let depth replace intensity. Do not force yourself into focus. Allow yourself to settle into it. 5. Observe the shift. Feel the mind drop its unnecessary weight. Feel presence grow inside you. With repetition, Ichigyo-Zammai becomes natural. Your mind learns to enter focus gently, without the struggle most people feel. In Japan, there is a saying that carries a quiet truth. Little by little, the mind becomes unshakable. Talent may move fast, but consistency moves deep. Consistency builds the mind that does not scatter and does not break under pressure. You train yourself to return, again and again, to a single clear point. This is the kind of strength that is never loud, never aggressive, and never unstable. It is the strength that grows quietly inside you, the strength that leads you into flow, the strength that allows you to act with clarity, even in a noisy world. Now you are going to learn how to integrate this practice into your life in a way that feels natural, how to apply it to your work and relationships, and how it becomes a path to inner steadiness and effortless focus. When a practice is truly understood, it begins to shift the way you move through the world. Ichigyo-Zammai is not only a technique for focus, and not only a method for increasing productivity, it is a way of being, a way of meeting your life without scattering yourself, a way of offering your presence to the moment in front of you, instead of dividing your spirit across 1,000 unfinished thoughts. The monks believed that distraction is a form of self-abandonment. Every time the mind jumps away, a part of you leaves yourself. Ichigyo-Zammai is the gentle act of returning to the breath, returning to the body, returning to the single thread of intention that holds your day together. And it is this return, repeated over time, that begins to change everything. To practice in daily life, to integrate Ichigyo-Zammai into the modern world, you do not need silence, or a monastery, or hours of meditation. You need presence, and presence, when practiced consistently, begins to follow you everywhere. A few ways to live the practice. When you begin your day, begin with one thing, not a list, not a rush of responsibilities, just one clear intention. When you speak to someone, be fully with them. Let the conversation be the only place your mind rests. This alone transforms relationships, because presence is rare, and people feel it immediately. When you work, let each task stand on its own island. Do it deeply. Let it absorb you. Let nothing else touch your mind until the task is complete. When you rest, truly rest. Do not fill the moment with stimulation. Do not reach for distraction. When you feel overwhelmed, return to one breath, one inhale, one exhale. This is the doorway back to presence. With each small moment, you teach your nervous system. Here is where we place our attention. Here is where we stay. Over time, Ichigyo-Zammai reshapes your inner landscape. You begin to see that clarity grows from fewer things, not more. You begin to feel that peace is not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of single-line intention. You begin to move with a quiet confidence, because you are no longer pulled in every direction. You are centered, rooted, unmoved by noise. This is how flow becomes accessible, not by pushing harder, but by giving yourself entirely to the one action in front of you. When you practice Ichigyo-Zammai, your work deepens, your creativity expands, your ideas begin to arrive more clearly, because your mind is no longer split. Most breakthroughs come not from effort, but from absorption, and this is why consistent single-line focus often outperforms natural talent. Talent can flicker, talent can fade, but presence, when practiced, becomes a stable force. It carries you forward even on difficult days. It allows you to create, build, and finish what others abandon. Through Ichigyo-Zammai, you become someone who completes things, someone who brings ideas into form, someone who no longer fractures under pressure. When you give someone your full attention, you offer them a rare gift. People feel when you are distracted, even if you say nothing. They also feel when you are truly there, not half present, not split between them and your thoughts. Ichigyo-Zammai becomes a form of care, a way of listening more deeply, a way of speaking with more intention, a way of being with others without abandoning yourself. Presence is a form of love, and this practice returns you to it. In Japanese calligraphy, there is a concept called ma, the space between strokes. Without this space, the characters lose their strength. They become crowded, confused, and heavy. Humans are the same. Ichigyo-Zammai creates ma in the mind, a space where clarity lives, a space where the spirit rests before choosing its next movement. In this space, you rediscover yourself. This is why the monks called it the mind that does not move, a mind that remains clear, even while changing, a mind that stays centered, no matter what the world is doing around it. Ichigyo-Zammai begins as a technique, but it becomes a way of meeting life with steadiness. It helps you work with more clarity, create with more depth, love with more presence, and live with more internal quiet. And slowly, you begin to realize that this ancient practice is not just about focus, but about freedom. freedom from distraction, freedom from overwhelm, freedom from the noise that once owned your attention. This is the quiet power of Ichigyo-Zammai. A single line of action, a single breath, a single moment lived fully. If you found insight in this video, please subscribe for more videos to help you along your path. And now, a question to carry with you. What is the one action today that deserves the fullness of your presence? And as always, remember to stay in tune with your own mind frequency.